Hello! It's time for a story, and we are going to be reading a story called The Mitten this week. We're going to read it lots of times in lots of different ways, and you're going to do some activities with it too. So here it is. The story is called The Mitten. Let's see what we see on the front of this story. I see a tiny mitten, and I see lots of wild animals, forest animals. I see a mouse, a bear, an owl, a mole, a rabbit, a fox, a hedgehog, and what's a badger. That's right, that's what it's called, a badger. I wonder what's going to happen in the story, The Mitten. Let's look and find out. Here's our title page, The Mitten. All right, now when we look on these pages, there's a big picture in the middle, and then there are little pictures on the sides. And the pictures on the sides are going to give us clues about what happens next in the story, so we'll be looking at those. All right, let's see what happens in our story. Once there was a boy named Niki. There's Niki playing in the snow. He wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. So he wanted some new mittens, and he wanted them to be white. So who do you think we're going to meet next? Ooh, maybe his grandmother. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop them in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Niki wanted snow white mittens so bad, she finally made them. So here's his grandma, and she's knitting him some white mittens. She didn't want to because she thought they might get lost if he dropped one because they matched the snow. Oh, okay, here's our clue. Where do you think Niki's going? After she finished, she said, when you come home, the first thing I'll look for is to see if you're safe and sound, and then I'll look to see if you still have your snow white mittens. So off Niki went, and it wasn't long until one of his mittens dropped in the snow, and it was left behind. Look, you can barely see it because it matches. Oh, his grandma warned him. Oh, look at this little guy. Wonder what's going to happen with him. A mole, that's that kind of animal, was so tired from tunneling along under the snow, and he discovered the mitten. That means he found it. And he burrowed inside. He burrowed and dug inside. Woo-wee! He said, this is a cozy and warm mitten, and it is just the right size. So he decided to stay. All right, so our little mole friend is in the mitten now. He's going to stay inside. Who do you think we might meet next? A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat, and it was then that he saw the mitten. Ooh-wee! This mitten looks warm and cozy, and he wiggled in next to the mole, feet first. The mole didn't think there was enough room for both of them, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. So the rabbit and the mole are in the mitten now. Let's see who's coming next. That's an interesting animal. Wonder what kind of animal that is. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided, ooh-wee! This mitten looks warm, and he moved in. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered in prickly spines, they moved over. They didn't want to get poked. All right, who's coming next? We know that animal, an owl. Woohoo! As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl was attracted by the commotion and swooped down. Woo-wee! This mitten looks so warm and cozy, and so the owl decided to move in. The mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled. But when they saw the owl's long talons, that's the toenails on his feet, they quickly let him in. They were scared. They didn't want to get hurt by his talons, so they scooted over. Look how stretched out that mitten's getting. This hedgehog's pokers are poking out. Do you think the owl's going to fit? Let's see. It's getting pretty stretched. Who are we going to meet next? It's a funny little animal. Oh, look. Owl did squeeze in. Up through the snow, there appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten. Ooh-wee! That looks warm and cozy, he said. The mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog and the owl did not think there was room, and they were not pleased. But they saw the badger's long diggers, and they let him move in to the little thumb. Do you think the badger's going to fit in that tiny thumb? I don't know. They're going to try to make it work. See if Badger can squeeze in. Who's coming next? Fox. It started snowing then, but the animals were snug and warm in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. That means he wants to discover what all of this is about. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy or sleepy. Woo-wee! He wanted to move into that mitten. The fox poked his nose in. When the mole and the rabbit and the hedgehog, the owl and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they definitely moved over and made room for the fox. They didn't want the fox to bite them with his sharp teeth. Oh my goodness, how's the fox going to fit in that mitten? Look how stretched out it's getting. Who's coming next? There's no way that bear's going to fit. He's huge. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up, and not one to be left out in the cold. He began to nose his way in. Woo-wee! It looked warm and cozy. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled to many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held together fast. They're pulling and stretching to let the bear in. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. He fit. Now, all those animals are cozy in the mitten. Oh, I forgot to look at who is coming next. Something tiny. Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than a teeny acorn. She wiggled into the one space left on the mitten, right on Bear's nose, and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. All right, all the animals are in. Those are all the animals that we saw on the front cover of the book. They've made it into the mitten. Now, what do you think Niki's thinking over here? He's looking at one of his mittens. I bet he's wondering what happened to my other mitten. Let's see. The bear was tickled by the mouse. His whiskers, achoo! He gave an enormous sneeze, and the force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. The bear sneezed because the mouse tickled his nose, and he went, achoo! And they all shot out of the mitten. On his way home, Niki saw a white shape in the distance. It was his lost mitten. He ran to catch his snow-white mitten, and he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound. Then he saw that he still had his new mittens. Oh, this is funny, guys. Look at Baba. Look at his mittens. Oh my goodness. He's got his regular mitten, the one he kept. And that one is huge. How did it get so big? That mitten got stretched out by all those animals. I bet they're wondering what happened to it because they didn't see the animals in there. The end. I love that story. All right, guys, we're going to be doing lots of activities with this story, and I look forward to reading it with you again later. Have a great day.